My name is Joy, and I am what's called a pioneer curate at St John the Baptist, Owlerton, which is the church next to the dog track, just down the road. Thank you, our little St John's tribe. Woo! Good to have you guys here. And I've been doing that for a couple of years now. I'm nearly at the end of my curacy. But it's not just me you've got to listen to today. You'll be really pleased to hear that. I have brought along two other people. The observant among you will notice that Caleb and me share the same name. That's because I'm his mum, but we won't talk about that too loudly. So Caleb and Alice are going to introduce themselves. Let's hear a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Caleb. I'm 18 years old. I'm doing a gap year at the minute with an organisation called the Message Trust. I used to live here in Sheffield. I went to All Saints schools. Anyone here from All Saints? Ooh, we have a few. You guys are good. Yeah, so I'm doing a gap year at the minute. I'll tell you a bit more about that later, but I'm going to pass on to Alice.
Hi, I'm Alice. I'm 17. I also go to St John's in Hillsborough, and I'm currently in year 13 at Notre Dame Sixth Form.
Okay, these guys are going to sit down for a minute and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. Now, this seminar, okay, I'm going to be honest with you now, we'll fess up, a little bit confused about the name because the seminar's called Life is Good in Little Writing and then in Big Writing, what can I do to help others? Now, the first thing I want to say is we are in no way assuming that life is good. Alice got here this morning and she said to me, Australia is on fire and Trump is in power. Life is not good, okay? Now, there might be a million reasons for each of you why your life might be absolutely fabulous. You might be celebrating from the rooftops today, or you might be facing massive, massive questions about who you are, who God is, what the world is all about, what are we doing in this life? And they are good and legitimate questions, but whether you have come here today thinking that life is wonderful, life is good, and everything is positive, or whether you have come here today thinking, I have no clue what is going on in this world, what we're going to be talking about today is what it means to be able to help other people. So I think we're going to have our next slide up in a moment. And we're going to be talking about what the Bible says about helping other people. What does it mean for our Christian faith to motivate us to get out there and make a difference in the world we live in? If we think the world isn't as good as we would like it to be, how can we, as followers of Jesus, be the sorts of people who make it a better place to live in for everyone else? So what does the Bible say about helping others? What do we think about helping others? How can we get involved in helping others? How can you, as someone who is 12 or 14 or 16 or 18, or we've got some adults in here too, whatever stage of life you're at, how can you make a difference? And what I really want us to do today, I want us to be commissioned. I want us to be sent out. I want us to go from here knowing that whatever is going on in our lives, we are able to be used by God. Does that sound all right? Ace. So, first of all, we're going to look at the Bible. There's a story in the New Testament that Jesus tells, well, that we read in Mark's Gospel, about an encounter that Jesus has with a young adult. Okay? And this young adult comes to Jesus because he likes the sort of thing that Jesus has to say. And what he really wants to do is he wants to become an intentional follower of Jesus. So he wants to become somebody who is orienting all of his life around what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And he's pretty proud of himself at the start of the conversation. He gives himself a little pat on the back because he says, you know, Jesus, like I've been a good Jew all of my life. I've followed the commands. I've kept the Sabbath. I've been a good, faithful follower. I've not broken any of the rules, but I still feel like something is missing. And he asks Jesus, what must I do to inherit, to get hold of eternal life. And Jesus says this. We'll read the words. Jesus fixed his gaze upon the man with tender love and said to him, there is still one thing lacking. Go sell everything that you've got and give your money to the poor. Then all of your treasure will be in heaven. After you've done this, come back and walk with me. Completely shocked by Jesus' answer, the man turned and walked away, very sad, for he was extremely rich. And Jesus looked at the faces of his disciples and said, how hard it is for the wealthy to enter into God's kingdom realm. The disciples were startled when they heard this, but Jesus again said to them, children, it is next to impossible. Hang on, we've lost it. There we go. Next to impossible for those who who trust in their riches to find their way into God's kingdom realm. It's easier to stuff a rope through the eye of a needle than for a wealthy person to enter into God's kingdom rule. Oh my goodness. The Bible then tells us that the man went away sad because he was very, very rich. Well, you would, wouldn't you? You would go away sad after hearing something like that. But actually, what Jesus is saying, he's not saying that money is bad. He's not saying that having a little bit of money in your pocket, being able to go out occasionally and do nice things is a bad thing. But what he's saying is, what are you orienting your life around? What is your life built around? Is it built around following Jesus, or is it built around a whole set of other things that are going to take your eye off the ball? It's a super challenging teaching, isn't it? And yet, for all of us, and we are all working this stuff out, none of us have got it sorted, none of us have got it nailed. As we're working this stuff out, what Jesus is asking us to do is keep him front and center. Let him be the way that we make our decisions. Let him be the way that we think about how we choose the kind of person we're going to be. So there's another Bible passage I want to talk to you a little bit about. And this is right at the end of Matthew's gospel. And Jesus tells a story. You know, Jesus talks in stories all the time. And his stories take the things of normal life and make them relevant. They're relevant. He talks a lot about like sheep and goats and that sort of stuff. And I think if he was talking to us now, he might have to talk a little bit more about iPhones and shopping and all that sort of thing. But at the time, sheep and goats were super important. Like if you had a sheep and you had a goat, you know, you were doing all right for yourself. So he told this parable about the end of time and Jesus coming along and separating out the sheep and the goats because they're different and they do different things. And what he says is like, the sheep will go off and they'll be the faithful kind of followers of Jesus, and the goats are the ones that have been a little bit naughty and done what they shouldn't have done. But the thing is, how do we know in our own lives which kind of person we are? How do we know if we're following Jesus faithfully or if we're going a little bit off course? Well, Jesus helps us to understand this by saying, okay, the way that we will know whether or not we're following Jesus faithfully and whether we're going off course is to do with how we care for people who have need, okay? How we love other people, how we care for those who are in need. I'll read what it says in the Bible. The godly will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty and give you food and something to drink? When did we see you with no place to stay and invite you in? When did we see you poorly clothed and cover you? When did we see you sick and tenderly care for you, or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, don't you know? When you cared for one of the least important of these my little ones, my true brothers and sisters, you demonstrated love for me. So when we are going around our normal lives, when you guys are at school and you see that person who gets picked on and who doesn't have many mates and who maybe is actually a little bit difficult to love, but you look at them and you smile at them and you engage with them and you show them that you're human, do you know what you're doing? You're being Jesus in that place. you're loving them as Jesus would love them. When you share your stuff, maybe in your family, you might have brothers or sisters. It might be hard to get on with them sometimes. But when you choose to go beyond those feelings of frustration and negativity and you choose to share, you are being Jesus in that situation. Some of you, have any of you ever been in a position where you've maybe been with your family, or you may have done it on your own, and you see a homeless person on the street and you just don't know how to respond? Anyone been in that situation? It's tough, isn't it? It's really, really hard when we see people whose lives have gone way off course and we don't know how to help them. Occasionally in our family, it started with our youngest, Moses, who's 10. He got us into the habit of buying coffees for homeless people when we see them. We don't do it absolutely every time, but Moses was so incensed by seeing people on the street who didn't have anything that, it's not always good to give homeless people money because we don't always know how that's going to be spent. But it is really great to be able to share a little moment of interaction, of engagement. We have to do it safely when we're young guys. I'm not recommending that you go out and speak to homeless people on your own. But maybe when you're together with a bunch of mates, it's okay outside Greg's, to say, can I get you a sausage roll? And to show the love of Jesus in that way. Now, when I was your age, I was in a youth group, and our youth leader was appointed. Who here is in a church with a youth leader? Where you've got someone either as a volunteer? Brilliant. So a lot of you. Well, when I was 14, I was in a church and I was a follower of Jesus, and our church appointed a youth leader called Keith. Keith is still a mate of mine now, like 25 years later. And Keith came to meet us all as a bunch of young people, and we said, Keith, it's really great that you're here. You're really welcome to be a part of our church, but we run our youth group. So if you want to come along to our youth group and get involved, you're really welcome to do that. He was the paid member of staff, guys. If you want to come along to our youth group and get involved, you're really, really welcome, but we run the youth group. So come along and see what we do, and if you like what we do, then you might want to kind of stay involved with us. Well, Keith was a bit of a legend, because he didn't say, like, oh my goodness, you bunch of young people who think you get to make all the decisions. He said, yeah, that's great, I'll come along, I'll see what you do, I'll get involved. And Keith did that. And the thing was, for us as a group of young people, we had seen that our church didn't have a lot of youth work going on. We wanted to be meeting together and we wanted to be getting to know Jesus better. So we'd sort of taken matters into our own hands and set up our own youth group that we were meeting on a weekly basis. And what Keith did was he came alongside us. He didn't try to take over. He didn't try to boss us all around. And slowly and surely, he gave us loads and loads of opportunities to see how we, even as young people, could make a difference in the world. So one year, there was an organisation, they're still around, called Oasis Trust, and they set up a project where you could open a shop as a youth group for the Christmas period to sell fair trade and really kind of ethical products. This was in the 1990s, guys, before any of you were born. We could sell this stuff in a shop for a month over a Christmas period in order to just be active in the world and get some kind of money together for really, really good causes. And so that's what we did. We opened a shop on our local high street. To be honest, Keith did most of the work, I've got to say. But we had this shop open every day where we could, take shifts, like getting various different bits and pieces, ethical, wall hangings and all that sort of stuff sold. And it was an amazing experience because through that, we learned that we could make a difference. Our youth leader brought speakers in from around the world, like different missionaries, different people who'd had really different experiences of being Christians than us. And we asked them loads of questions. I remember having a missionary from Eastern Europe come, and she said to us, I don't know why I remember this, but the thing she said to us was, don't waste food, because in her culture, like wasting food, you just couldn't do it because there wasn't any food spare. And so I went away from that thinking, oh, that's interesting. That's what it means to follow Jesus in her time and place. And through that, I learned really, really young young that we could make a difference, that we didn't have to wait for permission from adults, we didn't have to wait to be old or to have a degree or to have a plan or to even know what we were doing, okay? We could make a difference right now. Now, there have been times, guys, when I've got myself into a little bit of trouble for trying to make a difference. Because sometimes those of us who are activists in the kingdom of God, those of us who want to see God's rule and reign at work in the here and now, we can kind of just shoot off ahead without really thinking it through. And there was a time a couple of years back where I got into a little bit of bother because I had this bright idea, okay? It was when the refugee crisis was at its height, and I'd seen some pictures of little children on beaches who'd died because their family had been trying to cross the sea to get to a new life. And something inside me just snapped. It just did not feel right. And I was thinking, you know, I've got little kids. My youngest was 6 at that time. I've got little kids. And my little son on that day, he'd gone to school for the first time that school year. He looked really kind of smart in his school uniform, and we'd had a really lovely day. We'd done nice things together, and then in the evening I'd looked at these pictures on social media and they broke my heart. And I had an idea, and I thought, well, let's do it. Let's crack on. And I thought it would be a tiny, tiny little idea. My idea, because who here has got... I know you're a bit older now. You might not want to fess up to this. But, okay, my Y6 now child goes to bed at night with about 35 teddies. If you know him, don't tell him that I told you that. Who here has still got teddies? Okay, quite a fair number of us. Good. I'm glad to see that we're still soft on the centre, even though we're growing up. Well, I had this idea, and my idea was, every young person has a teddy that they love. Why don't we get children to get one of the teddies that they've got at home that they really, really love, to maybe write a little note to a child who has had to leave their home as a refugee, just to kind of say, we can see you, we think about you, we care about you, and to put that little note, laminate it, put it around their neck, and we'll try and get those teddies to refugee children. I had not thought it through at all, hadn't thought through the details. I put it on social media, and do you know what happened? 560 groups right across the country, and schools and guide packs and brownies and cubs and churches and all sorts said, yeah, we want to do this. We want to send some teddies to refugee children. And in the end, and I'll tell you now, I don't know anything about international shipping. I don't know anything about aid in the Middle East. I don't know a lot about the Middle East, but I'll tell you, we sent 20,000 teddy bears to Iraq, Lebanon and Jordan, and we raised £60,000 from sitting around my dining table having an idea and trying to put it into practice. We got loads wrong, okay? It wasn't a perfect way of doing things, but do not ever let anyone tell you that God can't make incredible things happen from the tiny seed of an idea. For each of you sitting in this room now, God has spoken things over you. He's spoken calling into your heart. He's given you purpose. He's given you skills and abilities. And he wants to set those things loose to see incredible things happen in his kingdom. Do you think for 1 second that Greta Thunberg sat in her bedroom in Sweden and thought, I am going to be a worldwide activist? Do you think she ever thought that? No. She just did the next thing in front of her. And what I want for you guys today is to encourage you, whatever God has put in your heart, whatever that tiny little seed of an idea or an angry feeling at injustice, whatever it is, trust God to make that seed grow. Does that sound okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to hear a little bit from Caleb and Alice about some of the ways that they've been involved in activism, some of the ways that God has grown that seed of faith in their heart, and then this is the exciting bit, guys, because I'm getting really old now, okay? And I'm way more excited about what God's going to do in and through you guys than like my lot's generation. So after that, we're going to talk about what God's doing in you, and we're going to commission you guys to go out and do incredible things. So, Caleb, should we give him a little ripple?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm just getting my notes up. Yeah, so as I said before, I'm doing a gap year at the minute with an organisation called the Message Trust. They're a Christian organisation based in Manchester, and they basically go into schools, into prisons. They, and they'll be telling people about the good news of Jesus, and not just telling them the news, but also journeying with them through the things that they may have. So did anyone actually remember, or did the group of bands on the Higher Tour come into your school around last year? Does anyone remember that? Maybe a few of you? So that's the company that I'm now a part of, and they have a gap year called the Message Academy, and that's what I'm on. There's 10 of us that's doing that at the minute, and we're learning all things about my own faith, and also how we can go out and make a difference ourselves. And so I was doing sixth form last year. I was at All Saints doing my A-levels, and I was planning to go to uni. And yeah, I was thinking, should I go to uni or should I stay and do this gap year? And I came to the conclusion, actually, this gap year looks pretty good. They have quite a lot. That I like the look of. I'm really into music. I play drums. I play a bit of the guitar. I say I play guitar. I'm not that good at it. But I play drums, and I love doing that. And they offer doing lots of music stuff. I get free drum lessons there. So I was like, yeah, that's so cool. I'm going to go and do this gap year course. And I didn't really know much of what it was about. I knew it was like church stuff, and I like my church. Like my mum runs it, so So I like my church, and I've been. So I've been involved in the church, and I was like, right, well, I want to do this. I did not expect it to be as growthful. Is growthful a word? As amazing as it's been so far. And I've learned so much from it, and I've learned actually I am the guy who makes an impact. I remember being your guys' age, even now, I'm still the same, and being the guy sat at this sort of thing, thinking, wow, this all sounds amazing, all these people going and doing this great monumental stuff. I wish I could do the same, but I just don't feel like I can have the impact. Like, with my mum, with her teddy bear scheme, she didn't think that she could have that impact. And I feel the same. I'd hear about my youth leaders going off to Tanzania or wherever and helping out the people there, and I'd be like, that's really cool, but I just don't feel like I'm that person. And now I'm here, I'm helping out in prisons, I'm helping out in schools, and I'm having young people in the youth clubs come up to me and ask all the same questions that I had. And I'm coming to realize that I'm the guy that now has to have the impact on those people. And I didn't really do anything to bring about that impact, apart from one thing that I did, and that's putting Jesus front and center. And actually, because I put Jesus front and center, he's now allowed me to go and make an impact. And even though I know that I'm not perfect, I also know that I don't have to be perfect to make an impact on people's life. Because I'm just guessing, really. And even now, I'm just guessing. Like, I don't know if what I'm saying is right. But actually, I'm just guessing with this. And another thing I've realized is how actually God allows us to make certain choices with the things that he gives us in our lives, and we don't have to know what we're doing. Essentially, we just need to give it a try. So I'm on the Message Academy at the minute. If any of you guys want to hear more about that, I'll be at the side at the end. Come and find me. But for now, I'm going to pass on to Alice, and she's going to tell me a little bit more.
Hi, so I got baptized last year, and it really made me think, what is being a Christian and what does that mean to me? So put your hand up if you are anxious about the climate change crisis. Okay, so that's a lot of you. And put your hand up again if you sometimes feel like I can't make a difference. Okay, so that's exactly how I felt last year, and sometimes I still feel like that. But I looked at charities a bit like Tear Fund, which thinks about people in poverty that are affected by climate change. And I really wanted to do something as a Christian because obviously Jesus is there to help others, and I really wanted to do that as a follower of Jesus. So I started looking at what is the impact of my life on the environment, and I started with my school. So we've got people from Notre Dame here. Love that support. So I looked at our school canteen, and there is a lot of plastic in there was a lot of single-use plastic in our canteen. And I thought, what can I do to make a difference? And I thought about emailing our catering company, Taylor Shaw, but I put it off because I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to be different. I thought, people are going to be, if I put myself out there, then it's going to be embarrassing. But I thought, I need to put my faith before any embarrassment that I'd feel about trying to make a difference. So I emailed the head teacher at Notre Dame and the Taylor Shaw in Sheffield, and I emailed them a few suggestions about how they could reduce the single-use plastic, which is having a tremendous damage on our world. And they got back within a week. Within 2 weeks, I was having a meeting with a representative from Taylor Shaw, and within 4 weeks, the amount of single-use plastic had dramatically decreased in Notre Dame's canteen, and they had changed the material of any food packaging that we have. So, but I wanted to talk about the role of social media in all of this. So I really wanted to make sure that people knew what I was doing, however embarrassing that was. But now I look back at it, I'm really proud of myself. So I took a picture of the email that I was sending, and I put it on my Instagram story, and I said, if you are from Notre Dame and you would like to have your name on this email, please message me. And I got over 50 people messaging me, so I had over 50 names on this email. And then I posted a picture of my friend at a climate change strike. Who's been to a climate change strike? I'm just interested. Okay, so well, there is one on the 20th if you'd like to come to that in a few weeks. But so I posted this picture of my friend Fran at a climate change strike, and in the caption I tagged Taylor Shaw, and I just said, I don't want what I do at this climate change strike to just be me here. I want my actions to reflect the meaning of what it means to be a climate change activist. So I tagged Taylor Shaw, and then in my meeting, so the representative from Sheffield, she had this lovely suit on, and she was very important, and she seemed terrified by my influence on social media. So she said, I can see the impact that you've had through posting this picture and tagging Taylor Shaw. They actually took it down because obviously it turned up on the tag pictures on Taylor Shaw's Instagram, and they can't have any negative feedback really. So she said, I'd love to make a difference in Notre Dame, but I'd also want you to post what we do to try and help the environment now that you've contacted us, which is really interesting. So I want to say two things, which is, however small you feel, you can still make a difference, and just look at your life and don't feel like, I think a part of being a teenager is we feel so vulnerable to be like everybody else and not want to stand out, but actually, I feel like, and as well a lot of anxiety that people feel, but it's really helped me with the anxiety that I feel about climate change, or just, growing up. Growing up is really hard, and it's made me get out of the bubble of how I feel, because I know that I'm helping other people. So the other thing I would say is social media gets such a bad reputation. Can you put your hand if your parents have complained about how much you spend on social media? Yeah, a lot of you. And I would love it if you thought about, what you do on Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and think, what can I do that would not only reflect me as a Christian, but how I can make an impact on the environment through, if you want to talk to me afterwards about writing a letter to a company, or how you, I don't know, I can talk to you a lot about plastic-free makeup and that sort of thing. That would be great. So, that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you, you guys. That is so cool. And just gives us an insight, doesn't it, into things that we can do right now without waiting for years and years and years. We're just going to watch a really short video now about some another crazy idea that someone young put into action for Jesus. So let's watch this.
My name's Emily Finch. I trained as a youth and community worker, and I was working for a lot of churches, helping them get youth work going, and all these churches really wanted to love young people in their communities but didn't quite know how. And so I quite crazily used my savings that my parents had put aside for me, probably for something sensible, like a deposit on a house or something like that. And I used that to buy an old double-decker bus and transformed it into a youth and community centre. We mainly do youth work, but then we also do, we have a community cafe style time where we have older members of the public. Sometimes we get young mums on with littlies, so quite a range, but the main bit that we do is youth work with teenagers. We're there to listen to a lot of people, and that's amazing, but also is quite difficult sometimes, hearing the hard parts of people's lives where they're suffering. We say at the end of our youth sessions, we say, we're going to pray now, or if you don't want to pray, you can head home because it's the end of the night. And a lot of young people, we often get them staying around, and at first they'll start mocking it and be like, oh, prayer, what is this? And then we just find that they just end up loving it and praying for each other. Prayer is something that so many people, and particularly teenagers, they really connect with it. Most of the people who come on the bus don't have any church connections, aren't from Christian backgrounds. And we've had young people praying for each other when they've never really prayed before themselves. And that's incredible.
Okay, so let's just get this. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get this in perspective. She bought a bus to run youth work. Guys, do not let anyone ever tell you that you can't do crazy things for Jesus, okay? Now, for many of you, there will be dreams, there'll be visions, there'll be issues that you think about all the time, that things that concern you about the state of the world. And what we want to do now is we want to get active and think about some of those things. So, is anyone feeling brave enough to stick their hand up and tell us about an issue that you're passionate about? Right, Alice, are you ready with the whiteboard? Okay.
Losing my family.
Okay, so loss, losing people, loss and bereavement, that is something that is a massive issue for young people, isn't it? And I don't think we talk about it enough, that actually if you lose someone, it is really overwhelming, and we as the church need to be able to love people, support them and journey with them when they're on that journey. Absolutely. Anything else? Can I see any hands? Yeah.
Thinking that I can't do it when there's other people there that's telling me I can.
Yeah, okay, so that's around confidence maybe, and just feeling like you can't do it. Do you feel like sometimes that's to do with your age, or is that, to do with your age? Okay, can I tell you about that? There is a verse, and someone who knows the Bible a little bit better than me, and I should know it wellish because I'm a vicar, but in 2 Timothy, Paul, who's the big leader of the church, is writing to Timothy, who's a young guy, and he says, do not let anyone look down on you because you're young. And those words are still true today, guys. Do not let anyone look down on you because you're young. Okay, anything else? Who here is passionate about climate change? You guys put your hands up for that before. Okay, so let's write climate change down, guys. And another thing that I think is massive for you lot, and it comes into what you said about loss, is mental health for young people. Does anyone ask questions about mental health? You don't have to put your hand up for that if you don't want to, but we're going to be talking about these things in just a minute. Okay, any other issues or questions? Yep, coming all the way to the back. This is good, I'm getting a bit of a workout.
Bullying.
Bullying, okay, that is such a massive issue, isn't it? That is something that affects so many people, and you're really brave to talk about it. What can we do as followers of Jesus to intervene in bullying? Really, really important. Okay, I think we've got space for maybe one more. What? Anyway, any last questions? Yeah, Poppy.
Sickness.
Sickness, yeah, absolutely. When people get ill, we've had a lot of that in our church this last year, haven't we? And it's been really, really tough for us as a church family, asking questions about sickness and suffering. What does it actually mean for Jesus to intervene when times are hard for people and we see people we love having a difficult time? Okay, what I want you to do is just take 2 minutes with the people that you're around. If you're one of the people who's talked about an issue, you could talk about that. If not, if there's anything else that's come up for you, we're just going to ask these questions. What are you most passionate about? And how can your faith help you to respond to those situations? So just 2 minutes to talk to the people that you're with about that. Okay, guys, so we've got 5 minutes left before it's lunchtime, and what we're going to do in those 5 minutes, we're not only going to talk, but we're also going to commission you as young people to go out and make a difference in your world. So what we're doing, we're putting the issues that we've talked about in different spaces around the room. And what I would really love for you to do is, we'll call out where each one is in a moment, and we would like you to move and form a group around the issue that we're talking about. And what I'd like you to do then, okay, is I would like you to engage with all of the creativity that you guys have as a generation and think about, how can I today respond to this issue? It may be that you can pray. And prayer is absolutely a crucial response to all of the issues that we're experiencing. It may be that you can write a letter to an MP or to someone in power, or you could start a social media campaign, or you could respond in some way. But for all of us, it's tough to do this stuff on our own, isn't it? And what we're going to do right now is we're going to gather you as young people from across South Yorkshire around some of this stuff. And you might want to swap numbers. You might want to form a WhatsApp group. You might want to work out how you can respond to this when you get out of here. You might want to support one another in the days and weeks to come to make a difference in your time and in your place. Because I promise you, all God is looking for is your yes to these crazy ideas that mean that we may just be able to make a difference. Who's up for saying yes today? Okay, a couple of you. That's a good start. So we've got loss and bereavement here. We've got mental health over here. We've got bullying just here. We've got confidence over here. If you're one of those people who thinks, well, it just can't be me, I can't do it yet, confidence is here. We've got sickness and concerns about those we love suffering over here. And we've got climate change over here. I'm going to ask you to run around now, spend 2 minutes talking. You can still talk over lunch, and then we are going to pray and commission you to go. So run around now. So once you're gathered in your groups, guys, I just encourage you to talk, share some ideas, talk about maybe a bit about where you're from, what it is you'd like to see, how you might be able to make a difference. Okay, guys, let's eyes round to the front because people are going to be coming back in from the other venues in a moment, and I want to make sure that we've got time to pray. So I'm going to work my way around these groups, and I'm going to ask you, if that's okay, one thing that you'd like to feedback that you've thought of while we've been talking. So you guys over here, you've been talking about sickness and illness and suffering. Does anyone want to feedback for us one thing that has come out of your conversation? Yeah, Malachi, go for it.
What we were thinking in sickness is like the way how it links up to like death, and it can like stop you thinking and make you just want to stay alone.
So actually, when people are suffering, they can be really isolated. So one thing that you could do, guys, to make a difference is make sure that you visit people, that you spend time with friends and family who are suffering, that you're well connected. Absolutely. Okay, I think we're not going to have time to go around all the groups because people are coming back. So what I want to do is I want to get you guys to stand on your feet, if that's okay, wherever you are. And as we go from this session, I really hope and pray for each of us that this session isn't an isolated experience, that it's part of the beginning of a conversation about what we can do to make a difference. So we're just going to pray. If you're comfortable with praying, you might want to close your eyes, or you might want to put your hands out in front of you. And let's just take a moment, even though it's noisy, to focus on Jesus. So, Lord Jesus, you have placed dreams, visions, passion, and calling inside the heart of each of us. And I pray today that through your Holy Spirit, you would release those seeds of vision to grow into something beautiful. I pray for each person in this space who has a dream of the world being a better place. And I pray that you would fill them with your confidence to go and do incredible things in your kingdom. I pray for networks of young people across this city and across this region. And I pray that you would enable these young people today to know that however young they are, you have purposed them and called them. So we send them out in Jesus' name to do incredibly more than all we're able to dream or imagine. And everybody said together, Amen. Over to Mike.